Hey, this is April, and this show, Set Show, discusses cannabis, psychedelics, and altered states of consciousness generally. It's intended for audiences 21 and over. Also, I am not a medical expert. If you are looking to engage with psychedelic substances, please consult your physician before doing so. Hi, and welcome back to Set Show. I'm April Pride, your host and the CEO of Set, which is a resource for everybody curious to safely explore cannabis and psychedelics and learn more about their therapeutic potential. Today, I'm so excited to introduce Bonnie Wan, who is a creative force and the author of The Life Brief. Bonnie and I met through a women's organization a couple of years ago. She's a powerhouse in brand strategy and came upon The Life Brief when she had her own life crisis in her marriage. This is a resource that she's turned to for over a decade that she shared with others. And at the beginning of 2024, it was published into a hardbound book, which we will link to in our show notes. This episode's a little bit different than our normal episodes. Bonnie walks us through what the Life Brief is about, how it came to be in her life, how she's used it successfully to navigate trying times of change. And the reason I chose to profile Bonnie and her book is because I think when we're talking about psychedelics and creating intention around our consumption, whether it's microdosing or a macrodose, having a blueprint is a very critical way to make the most of your time with these medicines. So I encourage you to get the book, to read the book, create your own life brief, and then move into microdosing. Or begin microdosing and read and work through the life brief as you're doing it and see what comes up. I bet it would be different than if you didn't microdose while you were working through the life brief. Either way, I think these two things, microdosing psilocybin and the life brief, were destined to be tools used together for anybody who is feeling stuck and looking ahead and wanting a new way, new path forward, and wanting it to be their own and a life that they've intentionally built. If you are interested in microdosing, I encourage you to check out our show notes, and you'll find a link to Set's 12-week microdosing protocol, which was written by a clinician and is intended to help you personalize your protocol. It's everything you need to learn how to microdose safely and effectively. Also, in the show notes, you can bundle our 12-week protocol with our ultimate psilocybin guide, also written by a clinician, and goes through candidate criteria, history, science, dosing, everything you need to get started with this powerful medicine. So please join me and listen as Bonnie walks through the life brief.
Welcome to the Life Brief. It's a practice for courageous living. Creative, courageous living is what I call it, because it's a practice for looking at our lives more expansively with more possibility, especially when we're conditioned often to think that we only ever have two choices. But life is not binary. But somehow we're led to believe that their only answers are yes or no, stay or leave, this or that. And the life brief is a practice of getting really clear about what we want so that we can start seeing all the possibilities and alternatives available to us in making that real. So I'm going to ask each of you, what do you want? Now, I'm not asking you, what do you feel like? What are you in the mood for? Or what do you think you want? I'm definitely not asking you, what do your parents want for you? What does your best friend think? What do your kids need? I'm asking in your heart of hearts, what do you really want? Even if you haven't yet allowed yourself to admit it. And if something came up from deep within you, or even popped up or struck like lightning, I want you to write it down without judgment, without restraint, without editing. And that is the fundamental, it's the essential practice of the life brief. If you only take away one thing from this week or this talk, it's that. Get into practice with allowing what is inside you to come up and out and ideally onto a page without editing and withholding or judgment. Because this is how we tune in to our own inner voices. Allow those voices to come through as our truth. And why it's a practice is it becomes easier the more you do it. And as we practice it, we start to separate what is our voice, our true voice, and how is it different from the voices around us, the voices we've collected along the way in our lives, who have settled into our heart, into the crawl spaces of our minds. They were all well intentioned and there to protect us, but we can set them aside now. And what I want you to do is start thinking about, what do you want? And is it your voice that's speaking to you or somebody else's? So, what's at the heart of the life brief practice are questions. And not all questions are created equal. Sometimes the questions come from inside, other times the questions are given to us. And about 6 years ago, the question was given to me in the middle of a, I don't know, inconsequential, everyday fight with my husband. He asked me, "Are you still madly in love with me?" That question threw me back and took me by surprise. We weren't, I can't even remember what we were arguing about, honestly. It was that inconsequential. But his question shook me to my cells, and I deflected because the answer that came up right out of me was, hell no. But I didn't dare speak it or say it in that moment. I deflected. I danced. I said, "What do you mean, mad love? What is that, anyways? Is that a teenage thing? Do people who have been married for 17 years, have 4 kids, have moved 3 times, I think four by then? That's not even a concept that I can wrap my head around." And of course, I avoided the question. The next day, I flew to Boston for a 3-day new business pitch. Spent all this time preparing, writing, presenting. We landed the pitch, and then I was on my flight home. And something happens when you settle in the quiet. The questions that beckon to be answered rear their heads again. And that's what it did on the flight home from Boston. Am I madly in love? But first, I had to answer, do I want mad love? And do I want mad love with my husband? So I broke down the question. I got very emotional. It's hard to avoid things when you're on the road or in the air, alone, nothing to distract you. And when I thought about, do I want mad love? It was primal what came up out of me. Hell yes, I want mad love. I couldn't imagine a life where I didn't experience the fire of desire again, or to be the object or subject of desire for someone else. Those flames, that intensity. Of course, I couldn't imagine a life without experience that ever again. So yes, hell yes. Then came the harder question. Am I still madly in love? Do I want to be madly in love with this person I've chosen, who I've been with for 17 years? And I had to break that down into even more questions like, who am I when I'm with him? Who am I when I'm without him? Am I still growing when I'm with him? And is my frustration born out of something unhealthy or unsafe? Or is it born out of the challenges of being stretched, the growth edges? And when it came down to it, it became really clear to me I like myself better when I'm with him. I am more compassionate, nurturing, soft when I'm with him. And in my heart of hearts, yes, I still want to be in mad love with him. But did I think it was possible? No, not at all. And I had to really contend with the fact that what I believed impossible was incongruent with what I really wanted. And just admitting to myself what I wanted, being honest without any sense of knowing how to get it. Maybe that was enough. So, for you in this moment, ask yourself, what do you want? And allow whatever is coming up within you to come out and onto the page. So, why do I do this work? How do I do this work? What makes me relevant to this work? I'm a career brand strategist. I've been doing it for 3 decades. And what that means is I work with companies to make meaning out of messiness, to get crystal clear about the essence of who they are so that they can go after their most audacious ambitions and ideas from that place of clarity of essence. And since I wrote my first life brief for myself, for my family, I've been also teaching individual people how to make meaning out of their messiness in all the various parts of their lives, including relationships. And frankly, everything is a relationship. So whether it be like the story I just told between me and my husband, our relationship, the relationship with someone else, or if it's your relationship to your work, or very meaningfully, your relationship with yourself, or your relationship with a cause or a community that you're really passionate about. Any of those relationships and all of those relationships, I have life briefed about. So the life brief is a creative brief for your life. In my day job in advertising at the agency that I help run, Goodby Silverstein and Partners, we write creative briefs to be sharp, sticky distillations of the essence of the brands we work for. Because when you can get really clear about what you want, what you stand for, what you believe, then you will always act from that place of clarity, that place of truth, a truth that is unique to you and no one else. But unfortunately, we all operate in a world of clutter, confusion, complexity. Companies, whether you're a company or a person, right? There's so much noise. We're in 24/7 cycles of news, of content. You could binge watch anything and everything for the rest of your life and you wouldn't get through it all. So there are so many distractions and dramas in our lives. It's very easy to be hijacked and taken for a ride. But when you allow yourself the space to get clear and get in touch with your truth, your unique truth, what you really want, then life starts to unfold in really surprising and serendipitous ways, and action becomes automatic. I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. This is a practice, not a plan. So if you're feeling uncomfortable or awkward in this moment, not sure what to do, that's okay. We're going to walk through it. It's a practice. Go easy on yourself. Allow yourself to be messy. This is not a plan. You can plan other parts of your life. You want to throw a party? Plan it. You want to plan a vacation? Do it. You want to do financial planning? Great. But life is not a plan. David White, the poet, says, our plans are too small for us to live because plans are paved with facts and figures and things that we can see right here, right now. But life is full of surprise and serendipity that we can't imagine or plan for. So again, practice, don't plan. And when you get clear about what matters most, then you can get creative about the life you want. Even if it goes against everything you've been taught or told, even if it goes in a different direction than what others expect of you. That's why it's courageous living. Because when we step onto the path of our own making, of our own carving, then we're going to feel the true sense of aliveness that usually we are restless and hunting or craving. So I have written briefs, life briefs for every part of my life. My marriage, my parenting, how I lead, my career. I have a wealth brief and a self brief. So you can aim this at any topic, any part of your life that is gripping you right now. And when I say gripping you, it's the thing that has a hold on you, that pops up on your mind when you're in the shower or you're driving to work or you're just walking the dog, doing the dishes, the laundry. It just finds its way through. That's when I know, okay, this is something that's calling to me and I need to reflect, open up space, maybe write a brief for it. So here we're going to do this together and we're going to do it really easy, low stakes. You don't have to go for the big gun, the big thing, the complicated thing. Let's just practice together really easily. Choose one thing that's top of mind right now for you, one relationship. Again, relationship to yourself, relationship to someone else. Doesn't have to be a lifetime partner. It can be a parent, a child, a friend, some relationship that is beckoning you. And just pick it. Go with it. Don't think too hard about it. Now think through the lens. What do you want when it comes to this relationship? What do you really want? Our brains like to be good students. So when we're asked a question, we want to answer. Allow whatever's coming up to come out right now. The practice is simply you allowing yourself the honesty. Okay, we can take 5 minutes or whatever's easy for you. And I want you to take your pen and your notebook. or something to write on, something to write with. And I want you to aim all of your attention to that topic that grips you, that relationship that we just identified. And I want you to dump everything that comes up out onto the page. Again, I'm going to repeat these themes. No judgment, no withholding, no editing. You're just going to keep writing until the 5 minutes are up. And if you get stuck, I want you to keep writing. I'm stuck. I'm stuck. I'm really fucking stuck until the next thing comes out. Okay? You're going to let your pen lead. Ready? Go. All right. So you just did the foundational practice of the life brief, the brain dump. If you can squeeze out 5 minutes or stretch it to 10 every day for 2 weeks, you will start collecting the ingredients for your life brief. And if you can do that, then we've got the basis for getting a really great brief. But essentially, the life brief has 3 parts: getting messy so that you can get clear, and then getting active becomes pretty automatic. Here's the thing most people skip: they go straight to action. They skip right over the mess because so many of us have been taught we got to stay clean, stay in the box, don't get messy, don't be messy. Our inner perfectionists, our inner need to be right, to do it right, to do everything right, that gets in the way. But you can't get clear if you haven't generated all the ingredients, brought up all the stuff. Our briefs will be very skinny and thin if we don't go through get messy first. And here's the thing about action. We're such a society and culture with a bias for action. We're hustle culture. We want to be productive, efficient, smart, always on the go. Our to-do lists, our schedules. But the fact is that our actions are often wasted, or or they go into confused places, or we're sleepwalking through our actions. But when we get clear, our actions become automatic because our clarity starts guiding the way organically. Our decisions come up right through us. So let's walk through the 3 parts. Let's not skip over the first part, which is the most essential. So getting messy. You've already started. You've asked the question. We're going to keep asking the question, but you've started to write it down. And that's the big part of getting messy. Getting messy is all about curiosity. That's why we start with questions, not answers. And it's putting on a beginner's mind. It's about looking at your own life through a lens of fascination. Look at it through wonder. I know that's easier said than done, but that's why we write. So questions beckon, they stir up what's inside of us and allows us to go deeper. And questions aren't all about getting answers. The simple act of reflecting and generating is momentum forward. So don't be afraid of it. And here's the punch. The answers we seek lie in the questions we avoid. The answers that seem scary. Are you madly in love with me? Because we're terrified about what are the answers that lie on the other side of those questions. And what I have found time and again, and also through others who have taken my workshops, have attended my talks, is that when we allow ourselves to answer the really scary questions, we actually find hope on the other side. And we're surprised by the answers that emerge. They aren't quite what we were so scared of discovering at the beginning. And yes, there is tension, there is agitation, but that's where the good stuff is. I come out of a creative world where tension is where the juice is. In creativity, if it's wallpaper, if it's comfortable, if we all already know it, we'll swipe, we'll skip it. It's only when there's some provocation do we want to watch, engage, lean in. It's the same thing about life. And when it comes to life, I had a great professor who talked about we're driven by two sets of values, our eulogy values and our resume values. Our resume values are exactly that: achievement, outer focused, checked boxes that we want to tell the world that we're good. We're good enough. We want to put it on our resume. We want to shine about it. But our eulogy values are values that are deep, intrinsic values that we hope someone will say to us at our funerals. I know that's a little morbid, but how we want people to remember us. Now, neither set of values, again, we're not in an either or, this or that world. Both matter. And the tension between those two values, that's the agitation. And it's that tension that propels us forward in our work, in how we show up in our relationships, because we want both, but we struggle with which set should be more dominant at any given time. Don't fear or run from the agitation. Lean into it, like I did on that flight home from Boston. Do I want mad love? Do I want it with this person? It was agitating, but ultimately got me to the clarity I so needed. Why do we write? Because writing rearranges the furniture of our minds. This is a line from a poet friend, Roger Housden, who poets just have this magical way of capturing things. Writing rearranges the furniture of our minds. What that means is when we write, we have to choose words. We have to commit to what we put down. And suddenly that congeals or crystallizes our thinking because our minds are too permissive. We want to capture it. And only when you capture it can you be in relationship with it. Otherwise, you're going to forget. And I don't know how old everyone is on here, but I'm in my 50s and I have menopause brain and I can't even remember what I had for breakfast this morning, much less that lightning rod thought that came through me. So writing helps me go back to it, turn it over time and again, shape it. So that's why we write. Okay. Getting messy is about writing, capturing, allowing it to come up so that you can have ingredients to work with when we start to get clear. So some of the questions I love, in addition to what do you want? What lights you up? What are you in service of in this relationship? What are you ready to shed? What are you ready to shift? Where are you playing it safe? What part of you are you hiding? What's holding you back? What's sacred or non negotiable? Now, you might have your own feelings and your own questions that are coming up. Don't deny your own questions, but just know that sometimes things feel darkest just before the breakthrough. So, again, that's why we lean into the agitation. Okay. Getting clear. What do you do once you've collected all your brain dumps, answered all your questions, reflected on the page? How do we actually make meaning out of the messiness? The first thing you do is now you have it all in front of you. It's parked there. So you can reread things as if you're reading through a stranger's eyes. someone else, maybe an alien, someone who's never heard of you. What would they say they're seeing in all the ingredients that you've captured? What would they notice? What stands out? What are your enemies or the things that you're struggling against? Where do they see patterns or ahas or insights? And I want you to write those down. And once you have those, then you can start declaring what you want. And that's essentially what a life brief is. And because briefs are exactly that, brief, I try to limit it to 5 things, 5 declarative statements you're ready to make about what you want in this part of your life. For me, it was about my marriage on that flight from Boston. And the headline for my brief was, I am ready to fall madly in love with my husband again. I had also wrote about being ready to be a co-creator of life with him. And what that meant to me was instead of just being co-parents, co-producers, always working hard, doing the grind, getting the kids what they needed, putting ourselves last, I wanted to co-create, meaning dive into the excitement and energy of ideating together, coming up with new possibilities, generating and building ideas. I also wanted us to start navigating change together with grace and patience. I also wanted us to celebrate each other more, actively show our appreciation for each other. And every line I wrote started with I choose, I am, or I'm ready. Because this is a state of present action. This is not a I hope for. This is not someday we will. This is not a bucket list, a wish list. It's not a to-do list. It is a declaration of what you are ready for in this part of your life right now. Once you have your first draft of these 5 statements, it can be 3, it can be 1. If you're super brief, super sharp, go for it. But no more than 5, because then it becomes a laundry list, not a creative brief or a life brief. And once you have those statements, I want you to push them, and I want you to push them 3 times. So you're going to rewrite them 3 times. The first time you rewrite, you're going to go deeper, more honest. So you're going to really challenge yourself to get nakedly honest. And again, this is a private practice. So this is just between you and the page. But the practice of allowing yourself to go for it in the most honest way that you can. Do your words capture it? So when you read it back to yourself, have you left things off the table or off the page? The second time you push, I want you to go bolder. I want you to take it to the edge of nervousness, like I did. Instead of saying, I want us to get along, I took my husband's words and I put them in the brief. It wasn't that I wanted to get along. I wanted mad love again. So what are the words that will take it to the boldest place again? Not needing to know how it'll happen, whether it can happen, but just simply that you want it. And let me just make sure we're clear. Bold doesn't always have to be big. Bold for some of us is to slow down, pause, or get off the hamster wheel. So bold can be slowing it way down. Bold is different for each one of us. So what is bold for you? What pushes you to the edge of nervousness? Sharp is about vivid. This is the last push. How can you get more vivid, more evocative? Mad love is a very specific type of love. It isn't gentle love. It isn't slow love. It's mad love, right? So use as vivid of words as you can muster. And once you have pushed it 3 times, name the brief. So there might be a phrase or a set of words in your brief that help you remember it, that tattoos itself onto your mind, into your heart, so that you don't have to read the actual words every time. And for me, clearly, the brief name was Mad Love, right? Every time I thought Mad Love, and it became a brief between my husband and I. When we say Mad Love, we know what we mean. We know the brief that it calls up. It's a reminder for us to get back on that path. You can borrow from lyrics. You can borrow from books. This doesn't have to be original. I just taught a class and somebody used Bjork's song, Big Time Sensuality. That was the name of her brief. And I loved it. I didn't even know what her brief is about, but I can pretty much go there. And everyone in the class, everyone just started talking about big time sensuality. That's what we need. And so her name of the brief came from Bjork, came from somebody else, but it's sticky as heck for her. That's what we want, a tattoo brief name for your brief. And there's mine, a Mad Love. And once you have this, the reason we're pushing our briefs all the way to boldest, sharpest, most honest place is because then we get it to what I call the fuck yes feeling. When you feel fuck yes about your brief, actions naturally fall out. If you feel meh about your brief, you're not even going to remember what it says. So it's your choice. Are you willing to do the work to push your brief to that yes? Oh, damn yes, fuck yes place? Or are you just doing it as an exercise? Only my challenge to you and invitation is to push it all the way. Take it all the way home before you get active. Because action is a byproduct of clarity. When you are clear and you are fuck yes clear, you're just going to act on it. You're going to do whatever it takes to get there. And what it takes is really not big leaps. You don't have to burn the house down. You don't have to quit your job, put your kids up for adoption, put your dog up for adoption, whatever it is, the biggest version of your brief. Huge change I have found comes from tiny but consistent daily actions. And what I love about tiny is when you can get really tiny, they become irresistible and inexcusable. So that's what I want you to do is break down the action steps to the smallest, most unignorable, inexcusable things that you can do tomorrow. And I'll say thing, not things, singular. It's the small wins that give us momentum. For me, Mad Love started with a kiss and a thank you as I flew out the door. Usually it's like a sitcom. I am always late, rushing out the kitchen door with one of our kids in hand that I have to drop off before I get to work. And my husband always crafts these beautiful cups of coffee. He's from Seattle, so he loves coffee, and that's his special sauce. And it's his love language. So he hands me a cup of coffee, and I'm usually on a phone call already as I'm walking through the kitchen. He hands me the coffee. I grab my bag, I grab my child, and I'm out the door, usually without a word. I don't even look at him, I think. I know it's terrible. But after the Mad Love brief, I stopped. I turned to him. I looked at him and I leaned in for the smallest but momentous kiss. And his face went blank. He didn't know what to do with that. My daughter's face she did the double take. What just happened? Was that affection? And I left and I got in the car and I thought, wow, that was easy. And that was nice. Why am I not doing that more? And so I did it every day that week. Just that, a thank you, a look of appreciation, and a small peck on the lips. And that became an invitation to him to lean in more. He felt safe. He felt appreciated. And he held my hand in the grocery store. Who even goes to the grocery store together? And he held my hand. He leaned in when I was working late in bed and just rested his head on my shoulders. And 3 weeks later, we decided, okay, let's get my mom, watch the 4 kids. And it was our wedding anniversary. We went to where we got married in the Redwoods, and we just rented a little hotel room for ourselves and we renewed our vows. We watched movies. We played games. We went to the beach. And the morning of the third day, our final morning, I woke up before him and I thought, what is this feeling? Oh my gosh. Might this be mad love? So again, I thought it was impossible. But what unlocked our return to mad love was a simple act of appreciation done consistently for a week that grew in 3 weeks into a feeling that we had not felt in a very long time. Because life is a dance. So many people ask me, hey, Bonnie, can I life brief my boss? Can I life brief my kids? Can I life brief my best friend? Because she's really getting to me. No, we can't write life briefs for other people, but we can shift how we show up. And even in the tiniest increments, when we do, we invite everyone around us to show up differently too. And that's what happened. That simple kiss, that show of appreciation, it unwound years, at least a couple years of being ships in the night, of not really sharing anything, of not letting each other in, and it reversed that spiral. So your life brief evolves as you evolve. This is not a one and done thing. Some of my briefs have been timeless. They've lasted the entire decade or decade and a half that I've been doing this. Some I've thrown away, thrown out, rewritten because our lives change. And in the time that I've been doing this practice and doing it with others, the growth and the evolution is really fun to watch. And your life briefs become a chronicle of your life path. So here's what I've learned. We can't have it all. I don't even know what that means, but you can have all that matters to you. The question is, are you clear about what matters to you? And it's going to be you, not everybody else in your life, not society, culture, family, you. That's where it starts. And today you have just started the practice. Again, it gets easier the more you do it. So my invitation is that you keep this practice going and allow yourself to be surprised by what's inside of you, what unfolds, and where it takes you. Life is brief. Live it with meaning. Make it yours and only yours.
Thank you for joining us for today's show. I'm April, and I'll be back the next installment of Set Show, where we cover everything you need to have a safe, supported psychedelic experience in the wild.